The United Kingdom is currently in a phase of devastating economic and political turmoil. According to the Office for National Statistics of the UK economy, 45% of all adults that pay energy bills in Great Britain reported it was difficult to afford their energy bills in the third quarter of 2022. This is an increase of 5 percentage points from the period March to June 2022. Wholesale energy prices increased rapidly from the second half of 2021 onwards. Many consumers were protected, at least initially, by the energy price cap. But this cap was increased by 12% in October 2021, but rising wholesale prices due to the Russian sanctions have led to a much larger increase of 54% in April 2022. Continued increases in wholesale prices led Ofgem to announce a further planned increase of 80% on 1st October 2022. This is completely unsustainable for the British economy, and it is predicted that 70% of British pubs will be forced to close down in 2023, mainly due to extremely high energy bills. The prices of even the cheapest grocery items increased by around 17% overall. Vegetable oil is now priced at 80 pence per litre, representing a 65% increase, with milk up to 25 pence per 4 pints. And in the space of just 3 months, the island nation has had a monarchical succession due to the demise of Queen Elizabeth II, 3 prime ministers, and an economy that's bending to its knees. With the appointment of Rishi Sunak as the new prime minister, can he turn the situation around? How bad will things get before it gets better? Join us as we discuss the future of Great Britain's economy. Welcome to Financify. Subscribe for more financial and economic educational videos. According to the BBC, Moody's, an investor service and huge financial institution, have indicated that there were risks to the UK debt affordability. The island nation is currently rated a 3, which is the 4th ranking from the top on its scale. S&P maintained the UK rating of AA and also maintained its outlook that it rated stable, but now has turned negative. Moody's presents 2 factors responsible for this change. The first had to do with the heightened unpredictability in policymaking due to the domestic political landscape that has become volatile in recent months, increasing the risk to the UK credit profile and challenging the nation's ability to manage the shock arising from weaker growth prospects and high inflation. On September 23rd, Kwasi Kwarteng, the then Chancellor of the Exchequer, unveiled £45 billion or $48 billion of unfunded tax cuts in a radical mini-budget. But how would the government make up for the loss in revenue? It was unclear, and this spooked investors. Government borrowing costs rose sharply and the pound tanked. Now the Bank of England has been forced to intervene to restore order to financial markets. Moody's states that it views the government's mini-budget, the reversal of the majority of its policies, and the change in prime minister as part of what has become a trend. A continuing reflection of the weakening predictability of fiscal policymaking seen in previous years. The current Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, reversed the majority of the tax cuts from the mini-budget on Monday in an attempt to calm the markets, but the resignation of Prime Minister Liz Truss means economic policies are on hold. As investor concerns remain unaddressed, it weakens the credibility of the UK policies, which might not be fully restored even with the subsequent decision to reverse most of the tax cuts. The second factor Moody's presents is the heightened risk to the UK debt affordability, from which the biggest fears are the higher borrowing and the risk of more persistent inflation. Investors are worried Great Britain will become unable to pay what it owes. A spokesman for the Treasury said global financial markets have been subject to significant volatility in recent weeks. While no national government can eliminate this, we can give certainty about the sustainability of public finances in the UK. The statement continues, the underlying fundamentals of the British economy remain strong, with the UK having the second lowest net debt to GDP ratio in the G7 and unemployment at its lowest level in almost 50 years. The spokesman said the government was focused on delivering economic stability and sustainable growth. But there seem to be a number of significant problems that are peculiar to the United Kingdom, so it is not just the weight of the global economic downturn. In fact, there are huge questions about the seriousness of the government's handling of the public finances and even the extent to which it is in control. The Bank of England is forced to respond to the fiscal state by raising interest rates even more aggressively than it was planning before. That means more expensive mortgages for households and, generally speaking, a depressed demand which, in time, will lead to a recession. Restoring the economy will require an astonishing U-turn. The government has announced that it is publishing some of its fiscal rules alongside its independent forecast of the public finances in late November. That should happen sooner. Government borrowing costs rose on Friday while the pound sank as investors reacted to gloomy economic data amid the political turmoil. It clawed back some losses on Friday evening and was back up to around $1.12 against the dollar. The interest rate or yield on bonds due to be repaid in 30 years' time rose back above 4%, making government borrowing more expensive. They hit 5.17% in the aftermath of the mini-budget. Meanwhile, the yield on bonds due to be repaid in 5 years' time, which underpins the cost of new 5-year fixed-rate mortgages, rose to 4.09%. The Treasury said the Chancellor would set out how the government will get debt falling on the last day of October. This will come alongside a full forecast from the Office for Budget Responsibility on his economic policies. These responsibilities will be a baptism of fire for the new Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, who was officially appointed by King Charles on the 25th of October 2022. And what is the economic health of a nation that has seen 3 prime ministers in less than 8 weeks? Well, here are the numbers Rishi will be working with. Retail sales volume fell 1.4% in September 2022, meaning total sales volumes were 1.3% below pre-lockdown levels of February 2020. In the 3 months to September, sales volumes fell by 2% compared with the previous 3 months. Since the lifting of the lockdown restrictions on hospitality in the summer of 2021, this is the first downward trend. On the other hand, the rise in prices for the lowest-cost grocery items is similar to the 15% rise in the official measure of inflation for food and drink, although it's not directly comparable. For 9 of the 30 cheap grocery items monitored, the cheapest price rose by more than 20% this year alone. Not only vegetable oil had a massive spike in price, but also pasta, which climbed 60%, and tea, a trademark beverage, now cost a towering 45% more. Sunak acknowledged his predecessors made mistakes, and since he is the wealthiest to ever live at 10 Downing Street, there are high hopes that the economy will make that long-desired road to recovery. In his first speech as Prime Minister, Sunak promised to unite the nation, which, in his words, is facing a profound economic crisis. So what are the credentials Rishi Sunak brings to number 10? Mr. Sunak was previously appointed Chancellor of the Exchequer from the 13th of February 2020 to the 5th of July 2022. He was Chief Secretary to the Treasury for about 6 months from July 2019 to February 2020, and Parliamentary Under Secretary of State at the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government from the 9th of January 2018 to 24th of July 2019. Sunak went to Winchester College and studied politics, philosophy, and economics at Oxford University. He was also a Fulbright Scholar at Stanford University in the United States, where he studied for his MBA. He was elected Conservative MP for Richmond, York in May 2015 and served as a parliamentary private secretary at the Department for Business, Energy, and Industrial Strategy from June 2017 until his ministerial appointment. Before politics, Sunak spent his professional career in business and finance, working internationally. He co-founded an investment firm working with companies all over the world. He then used that experience to help small entrepreneurial British companies grow. With the pound sterling falling to its lowest level against the US dollar in recent days, the new Prime Minister will have a lot on his hands, especially with preventing the economic environment from becoming more hostile. Sunak added, "The government I lead will not leave the next generation, your children and grandchildren, with a debt to settle that we were too weak to pay ourselves." Hinting at what the priorities of his administration will be, he said he will fulfill manifesto commitments on building a stronger NHS, better schools, safer streets, control of our borders, protecting our environment, supporting our armed forces, leveling up and building an economy that embraces the opportunities of Brexit. But Sunak promised that he will bring the same compassion to number 10 that he brought to his role as Chancellor during the pandemic. Let's hope Mr. Sunak has what it takes to uplift the economy and the spirits of a nation in dire circumstances.